Welcome to Living Transplant, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the transplant program at Toronto General Hospital and brings you open and honest conversations about the transplant experience. My name is Candice, and I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Center for Living Organ Donation. I'm also a kidney transplant recipient. This is where I developed my passion to support others in their journey to navigate the world of transplant. Full disclosure, I'm not a physician, and I'm not here to give you medical advice. Think of me as your guide through the world of transplant to educate, inspire, pique your curiosity, and fuel your passion. Living Transplant will show you the world of transplant like you've never seen it before. Welcome back to the Living Transplant podcast. Today, I'm joined by a remarkable woman, Maria Acero, who is a caregiver to her husband, Luis. Later, we'll be joined by Dr. Margaret Herridge, who is a professor of medicine, critical care, and pulmonary medicine at UHN, a senior scientist in the Toronto General Research Institute, and director of research for the Interdepartmental Division of Critical Care Medicine at the University of Toronto. Thank you so much for joining me and co-hosting this episode with me, Maria.
Thank you so much.
I'm wondering if you can bring me back to when you first met your husband. How did the two of you meet?
So we met in high school. We were 15 years old. We lived in Colombia in a place called Guajira. So that's the region where we lived. And this was a camp for workers of a company. So my father-in-law and my dad worked at the same company, and we ended up living in this complex that was only 200 houses or so. So we met at 15 years old. He was a year ahead of me. In his class, there were, I think, 9 people. And in my class, we were 6. All the families were very close together because there was absolutely nothing outside that camp. So we spent not just the school time, but every holiday, every weekend, everything together because you were confined to this place. So families were very close. It was fun, but you had limited options to do stuff outside the camp and to meet other people and that. So yeah, it was different, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's cool. That's really neat.
So his brother was also in my sister's class, and his mom was my friend's mom. So it was a very close relationship. Yeah.
You already knew each other. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow. So Louise was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis at a very, very young age. When you began dating, did you know about his diagnosis? Did he talk openly about it?
So we met when we were 15, and he had just been diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that he was sick, and he handled his disease very well. He was a happy person. He went to school. He kept his life going. So I guess for me, I always admired that, right? That he and his family would just keep going and having a normal life despite the diagnosis. And when I started dating him 2 years after that, so I was 17 and he was 18, his disease was more or less under control. So for us, it just meant that he had to take medicine every day. He was more tired than I was, of course, because his liver wasn't working properly. So he would take like long naps and I wasn't. But in all honesty, it didn't bother me. We had a lot of fun and it never bothered me. When we started dating more seriously, I did have people from my family saying, listen, this is a person that is sick and you have to look to the future, right? Like, it's going to progress. There's no cure. It's just going to go downhill and you will be in this life forever. But it's not like it stopped me or made me change my mind in any way. But I was always conscious that transplant was going to come at some point in life. And when this was happening, liver transplant was just starting in Colombia. So it wasn't a good outcome, right? Because it wasn't really a well-established program or anything like that. You would have to go out of the country, which was an amount of money that we couldn't afford by any means. So yeah, it was very complicated, but I guess we were really young, and when you're that young, you don't think about that stuff, right? So yeah,
Right.
that's how it went.
You're in love and you decide to figure it out
Exactly,
how
like
it comes. Yeah.
right?
You two dated and you were living in this amazing community. And then when did you two decide to get married?
So we didn't do things in the correct order, so to say it somehow. So because we lived in this close community, when you graduated high school, you really had to go to another city for university
Wow.
because there was no university in that place. So he moved to Bogota, which is the capital, and I started university there, and I had a year to go. When I graduated, I went to Bogota to apply for university and all that, and I got pregnant. So I went to a different city called Cali to live with my parents, and I did all my university in Cali with my parents and my baby. He was living by himself, but in a different city while he finished his university, right? Once he finished, then I moved to Bogota and we started living together and got married. So our son was already 6 years old.
Beautiful.
So we married in 1998 and then we lived there for 2 years and moved to Canada in year 2000.
So you were going to school with a young baby and
Oh yeah.
wow. Wow. And what did you go to school for?
I did industrial engineering in Colombia.
Wow.
So there, this is a 5-year degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all of that with my son. I was living at my parents' place, so I did had a lot of help. My parents were absolutely amazing in that time, and then they helped a lot with the baby. And we saw each other every summer, every Christmas, every holiday. Yeah, we did our best to keep that relationship going and to have him with our son at all times.
Yeah. And then you moved to Canada in 2000. So why did you decide to move?
If you remember, the 90s were a really bad stage in the Colombian political situation. So the situation was dangerous. The drug cartels were at their peak. And we decided this is not life for our son. It's crazy. So he had been here for 6 months or so, studying English at the University of Ottawa at some point, and really liked Ottawa. And I was once in a trip, and in one of those magazines in the airplane, there was an advertisement for immigration to Canada. I said, well, this sounds cool. Let's try it. And it just happened. We did all the process and we ended up here. So we moved here in year 2000 with 4 suitcases.
Wow.
And a lot of dreams. And yeah, it was really nice.
Incredible. Incredible. And you have stayed in Ottawa ever since?
Yeah, so before we moved, he got a job at Nortel.
Incredible.
So thank goodness when we came here, he already had a job. So yeah, we came here and he started working at Nortel and kept going all the way. And he really never got laid off, just transferred from place to place, which was a miracle.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing my other degree. So now I did biology and biotechnology and a master's of science. I'm changing my career path altogether, and we had another baby. Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow, that's quite the journey that you guys have been on as a family. And so through all of these times, Louise was generally healthy and managing well.
He was fine. It was something that hung in our heads at all times, right? And he had these regular checkups every 6 months or so, and did his lab works and his scans and all that. But really, for us, it represented a pill or two every morning.
Right.
But he had what we considered a normal life.
Good, yeah.
Now, after everything that happened, I can see how that was not a normal life, because he has lots of more energy now and he's a totally different person, and he's just his humor and his energy and his way of doing things is way different now. So I guess that wasn't a normal life.
Right.
But because he had been sick from such a young age, it was normal for us. And it was good. It was a good life, right? It just is so different now.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, you kind of morph your normal into what it has to be, right? That becomes your normal, because it's all that you know. You don't know what life is like outside of that.
Exactly. For us, was absolutely normal.
Fast forward, you've been in Canada for 18 years, and Louise was then diagnosed with a form of liver cancer. What was that like for you guys? And did they discuss the treatment options, or what did you have to do moving forward?
It was a huge shock. I guess, I don't know. I guess it had always been in our minds, but it's something that you really never think is going to really happen. So we go for a yearly camping trip every single year, and we love it, and this is our thing. And when we were camping that year, he started having a fever and feeling really sick, but he didn't have anything else, not a cough, nothing. So it never crossed my mind that this had anything to do with his liver, because when you have a fever, it's like, okay, you got a cold,
right,
or something, right? But it was a really bad fever. He was really sick, to the point that I one night was thinking, what am I going to do? Like, we're in the middle of nowhere.
right.
The closest hospital is like 4 hours from here.
My goodness.
So that was scary. Then the fever went away, again, for no reason. They just went away. But when we came here, I told him, you know what, you have to go and get checked, because that's not normal. Like, why would you get sick like that? And he went and then did his scans, and they found the cancer. It was a huge shock. The doctor that was seeing him that day, so he called me at the office and said, the results are in and the doctor wants to talk to us. So I immediately knew, this is not. But good. Even before that, when he did his scans, I called my parents-in-law. This was December, right? And I said, you know what, I think my gut feeling is this is not good. And I think that the diagnosis is going to be that he has liver cancer. And I would like that at that point you guys are here. So they flew in.
Wow.
And so we got the diagnosis, and I was in shock. And even the doctor that was seeing him that day, that she had seen him for 18 years at that point, she was in tears. And the diagnosis was the tumor is too big, so you don't fit in the scale to be a candidate for liver transplant. However, I've remitted you to this person in Toronto to see what your options are. So how do you take that, right? Like, so yeah, we spent the entire December in Toronto going back and forth and looking at options and what we could do, what was the outcome, and then the solution was they were going to try a treatment to reduce the size of the tumor so that hopefully it would fit within those parameters for him to get into the list. but we had to be there by January 3rd or something like that. So that was Christmas.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we told our children what had happened. Daughter was 9 years old at that point, so she was still very young.
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning, we tried to tell her things the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
It's my very personal opinion that kids deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to know what's happening, right? And to be prepared for what can happen and know the options and know why you're doing what you're doing. So we told her what was happening. We told her we were going to be in Toronto for at least a month. So my parents-in-law were here, thank goodness. So
Mm-hmm.
she could stay here and keep with her life. And he went to Toronto. We stayed there for, I think it was like a month or something like that. And he had his treatment. And then he was put in the list in March.
Wow.
Or something like that. Yeah,
So
and then
that treatment was successful and
it was successful. It was very scary. Very, very scary because of the side effects of the treatment and all that. And even the he needed preparation, right? Like he needed to hold his breath for so long, for example, to let the machine do the job, and he had to be absolutely still.
Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't hold his breath that long. So we needed training. So we literally trained for it. Like we got the snorkel and trained him on how to hold his breath because he couldn't.
Wow.
So that was scary.
Yeah.
And we held training sessions on how to hold your breath that long and try to repeat what the machine was going to do, because he was very nervous. And I was telling him, if we practice at home, at least you know what you're going to expect.
Right.
If you practice here waiting like 25 seconds or something and you only need 18, the feeling. Mm-hmm. And even when I'm feeling that I don't have breath, I can still hold it, I don't know, like 5 seconds more or something. But you need to know what's going to feel like.
Yes.
So we did that. That I think worked out. So problem solved. But the problem is it wasn't only not to breathe. It was you had to hold your breath. You had to have your lungs empty, right? So you will take a huge breath and then release the air and then hold it.
That's hard.
So that's even worse.
That's
it's not
worse.
like you had air. Your lungs are empty. Okay, so that I think that was scary and that was hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was put on the list. And then the other bad moment that we had is he was put in the list and he was told he could have a living donor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had someone that was a candidate and everything. And then they called to say, no, you're not a candidate for a living donor anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the low moments.
Mm-hmm.
that took a lot of hope out of our minds.
Mm-hmm.
So now we were waiting for a deceased donor.
Right.
Which in my mind was very, very hard. It's like you're hoping for someone to honestly die so that you can get your liver, right? And mm-hmm. that was really hard to handle in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I am a very religious person, and that didn't sit well on my. How do you pray for that, right? Like,
right.
How do you pray for someone to die so that your husband can get the liver? Yeah, that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
So that was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we received the call in December. So it was a full year of waiting
mm-hmm.
for that moment to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
While you were waiting, practicing and doing different tests and making sure that he was comfortable, did you have to go back and forth between Ottawa and Toronto that whole time?
A lot of times. Yeah. We traveled so many times to Toronto. I think that we have driven the 401 in every situation, with rain, with snow, with sun, with wind, with everything. We did a lot of planning on that year. I think that both of us have always been very logic and structured people. So we planned our life a lot in that year. So we tried to secure that Sophia, my daughter, had a normal life. So she could keep her sports and her school and everything like that. We went to a nutritionist and completely changed our diets. We have always eaten very healthy. My mom is a nutritionist and his mom is a nutritionist. So we used to eat healthy, right?
Right.
But we had a nutritionist from the Cancer Foundation, and she guided us to how get foods that will give him more energy during that time. So it had a lot of proteins, a lot of fibers, all that. So we completely changed our diets, not just his, but I'm a firm believer that this is a team effort. So all of us ended up eating what he was eating, no salt or whatsoever. It was a family, commitment to this.
That's amazing. My family did the same thing when I went on dialysis. They all switched what they were eating. So it was just a house that was a safe house, right?
Exactly.
It made it so much easier for me to stick to the diet that I needed, right?
Yeah, I think it's the only way. Like if someone is eating something different, like I don't know, I couldn't. Like I felt it was just me eating something that he couldn't eat. So we changed our diets.
Amazing.
We made it the best out of it. The Sunday pancakes became full of fiber and oats and stuff.
Right.
We got a lawyer. We organized all our finances, everything. That was hard, and all our wills and all of that. But it's something that I feel like you need to do, right? So we did that. We found where we were going to live in Toronto, and when things happened, we had a list of hotels. We made a list of what do we need to do the day that they call. So we need to call this person, we need to drive here, we need to fix that. Everything was planned. Yes, we had a plan for every situation. So that was the year,
Wow. And then the call came that there was a potential liver for your husband. How did that all start with the first liver transplant?
So we got the call around noon that must have been December 13th. We were at work. So we happened to work on the same building, different companies, but the same building. So it's very convenient.
Yeah.
So he called and said, I just got the call. So we have to be in Toronto by midnight. So we had some time. So we came home. We had decided in advance that the day that we were going, all of us were going. It was a family commitment to this. So we called my son that was at work and told him, we're leaving like at 2 or 3 p.m. So get your stuff together and we will see you at home. Went and picked up my daughter at school, came home, got our list because I had a list of what do I have to put in the bag. So we packed our bags, we made the calls that were in the list, everything, and left, I think it like at 4 p.m. or so. Got to Toronto, then found a hotel. We had booked a hotel, everything organized. And then went to the hospital. Before we left the hotel, we took a lot of family pictures. It was almost Christmas, right? So the hotel was beautiful, had beautiful decorations. So we took a lot of family pictures there. Called my parents-in-law. They were in Colombia, so they had to fly to New York and start driving.
Wow.
Here. So his brother lives in New York. So his parents were going there and then driving from New York with his brother and his wife here. And yeah, we went to the hospital and he ended up having his first surgery. It was the next day.
Mhm.
His parents weren't here when he went into surgery. It was like 10 a.m. or so, and he went into surgery, and then his parents and his brother arrived when he was in surgery already. And it took a really, really, really long time, like
Mhm.
10 hours or so. But we were fine. It was part of the plan, right? That part I had imagined it was going to be that way.
Mhm.
So I remember it was just when Disney Plus had launched. So my daughter had an iPad, and I think that she went through the entire catalog that night.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was planned. So it was fine. It was okay. He was super happy when he went into the transplant. It was like, it always felt like getting him to the transplant is the goal.
Right.
If we get that transplant, we made it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that was a super happy day, a super happy situation. More
Yeah.
than scary or anything is we made it, right?
Right.
This is it. And
This
we
is it.
made it, and it's a happy situation, and we're done. We're fine, right?
Mhm.
Like, this is
Mhm.
it. It never, ever, ever crossed my mind that something was going to go wrong. So I was prepared for everything up to that day, not for what happened. Like, not even once. I know that they tell you things can go wrong. I totally get that. But it just never crossed my mind. Like, it just, I had a goal that was getting him to that transplant. And that was it. I'm done. Like, this is it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that transplant goes relatively well, and he wakes up from surgery. And what is that recovery like?
He was perfect.
Mhm.
He woke up, he had tons of energy, he was chatty, he was happy, to the point that my sister-in-law said, you know what, he's doing awesome. I'm just gonna go home a few days early because it was Christmas. They
Mhm.
have kids to see my
Mhm.
kids, and his brother stayed for a little more days, but everyone thought this is perfect, right?
Mhm.
However, from the beginning, from even the day one when he woke up, I I felt something is off. Like, I don't know, it didn't feel normal to me
Mhm.
that he was so happy and so chatty and so excited. Like, it wasn't him. Like, it was something different, something
Mhm.
off. I always thought this might be just the pain medications, right? That he's in this happy state. But in my mind, there was something not right. Like,
Mhm.
I can't explain it, but I told my son and I told my best friend, like, there's something really, really weird.
Mhm. Your intuition.
Yeah, like,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, there was something off. And then my son had to come back to work, and he was coming back on a Friday so that my brother-in-law could go home
Mhm.
and he would stay with me in Toronto. And when his brother left, like at around 7 p.m., he was perfectly fine. Said, okay, bye. Thank you so much for coming. Merry Christmas. Then my son arrived, and I told my son, okay, I'm going to go to a hotel. I'm going to have a nap and come back, and you stay here.
Mhm.
This might have been 8 p.m. or so. And at 11 p.m., he calls me to a hotel and says, Mom, you have to come. I said, what happened? He was perfectly fine. I said, no, he's not fine. He's walking around, running around the hospital, trying to leave.
Mhm.
I said, what do you mean he's running? He can't even walk.
Mhm.
I said, no, literally, you have to come. I think it took me 2 minutes to get dressed, call my parents-in-law, come to my room, stay with my daughter. And I ran the whole way. Like, I think it took me 3 minutes from the hotel to run to there. And that's the image that I found. Like, completely disoriented person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All of like in 3 hours. That was a shock.
Mm-hmm.
How did this happen in 3 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just downhill from there.
What was going on physically that was causing all of this? What was the progression from you getting to the hospital?
This was December 20th. That day was December 20th. And what I found was he really wanted to leave the hospital, which made zero sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was perfectly fine when I left. He was very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
He started not recognizing people and not even remembering anything. Like his kids, for example, he was confusing my son with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
In his mind, at no point was my daughter. Like he was like back in time or something like that. And then his liver started just not functioning. Like the liver labs were beyond bad. Yeah. So that was December 20th. And it just went downhill like super, super, super fast. He never stopped recognizing me for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else he did, absolutely out of it. And then on the 22nd at night, they told me that the only chance was to get a second transplant. And that we had 48 hours to find another liver. Just thinking, what do you mean 48 hours? We spent a year
Mm-hmm.
waiting for this. And he said, no, it's 48 hours. And he's number one in the national list. So there's your hope, right? Like it's not just within Ottawa, but it's just the complete country. But even so, if we find a liver in 48 hours, his chances of survival are 20%. Yeah. And then they found a liver the next day and got his second transplant on December 23rd.
And the transplant that they found, you had to make some tough decisions about that as well.
Yeah, so the doctor came and said, the only liver that I have is not his blood type.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, is the only choice, right? So it would be really, really hard, and you would have to get also your spleen removed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the only option. But you need to say, if you want to go that route, or keep waiting, or what do we want to do? She said, yeah, well, by all means.
Mm-hmm.
Like 20% sounds a lot better than nothing.
Right.
So yes, go ahead. And the surgeon also came back a few hours later and told me, I need to be sure that you understand what the situation is, and repeated everything, like it's a non-compatible liver, we have to remove the spleen, his chances are so and so. And I said, well, but nothing has happened, right? Like from the moment that you came like 3 hours ago, we are talking about the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he said, yes, I just need to make sure that you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
They went through with that transplant, and Louise got that liver. How did that second liver do for Louise?
So the recovery was really, really, really hard. I kept thinking at that point, they always tell you that if you're really healthy when you get to a transplant, the chances of survival are very high, right? And of you recovering well. Well, he was really healthy when he went into the first one, but he was super, super sick when he went into the second one. So I had that in my mind, like, yeah.
Mhm.
So it took a month or so for him to start showing like, okay, this is going well,
Mhm.
right? But the first weeks or so were very, very hard. He was in the ICU. Then he was in a step 1. He couldn't sleep at all.
Mm.
So that didn't help in any way to recover his mental state, right? He didn't remember anything. For a long time, he wouldn't speak.
Mhm.
That was a really hard part for
Mhm.
him not to speak. He was just looking at you, like if he was listening to you, but there was zero desire to speak back
Mhm.
or to say anything. That was a really, really hard moment for me and for my kids.
I bet.
But the doctors kept saying, just give him some time, right? Before the surgery, the only question that I had made to the doctor was, is his brain intact?
Mm.
And he has said, yes, it is. I said, okay, then you go ahead. But if his brain is not intact, he wouldn't have liked to keep going that way.
Mhm.
So when he started not speaking, that was my question to the surgeons, like, okay, you told me
Mhm.
his brain was fine, right? And they were saying, yeah, let's just giving him some time. And if it doesn't improve, we will do another scan or something. But hopefully it came back. And then when he started speaking again, he didn't remember anything. So I had to like practice with him every morning. How the nurses do their rounds before the
Mhm.
nurse would come, I will do these practice sessions. Your name is, and these are your kids, and you're here, and today is that date, and all that. And little by little, he got it.
Mhm.
Somehow he knew that he needed to remember those things. So he would pay like really close attention to what I was saying and try to say it in advance to the nurse coming. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, it was weird. Like he didn't know anything, but somehow he knew that he needed to remember those things and that it
Mhm.
was important for him to answer the questions correctly when the nurse came.
Mhm.
And when he would answer correctly, he showed like he was happy, right? Like, so
Mhm.
somehow he understood that that was important, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, that was a really, really, really hard stage. I think I was prepared for physical illness, but not
Mhm.
for mental illness. So
Mhm.
that was a shock, a complete shock. I wasn't prepared for that one.
Mhm.
But little by little, to improve a little, and then it's better. And then they take one line out and one medicine out, and you see, like, okay, we're moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
And yeah, we spent 42 days at Toronto General. Yeah, I felt like I lived there. And then we moved into rehab at a hospital from the Salvation Army in Toronto. And that was really, really good for him. The physical therapy was amazing. And yeah, it was like a slow return to living outside the hospital.
Mhm.
You can imagine that after leaving all that, you're so nervous. Like every time there was a lab work, I honestly was like so scared the half an hour or so that it takes for the results to come back.
Mhm.
So I think that hospital was like that transition to relax. You know,
Mm.
you're okay. Like you can keep going
Yeah.
normally.
Mhm.
Then we moved to a friend's house in Toronto. Yeah, is my friend from work. Her parents were away in Florida. So we
Yeah.
lived in that house for another month, I think,
Mhm.
and then came back to Ottawa full of dreams and happiness. And a week later, we had to go back because he got sick again. That was another low blow. Like,
Mhm.
seriously, after all this, we lasted home a week.
Mhm.
So we were back, and he had to have some procedures done, and then we came back. And the next year was full of issues. And secondary illness and full of trips to Toronto. Yeah, it was a really hard year. But now life is really good. So I think you have to be patient and go with the flow and make the best out of each day, and things get better. Just have to be patient.
We've talked a couple times now. One thing that I always admire about you and everything that you've done is having those small goals of this is what we're going to accomplish today. How did you get through those days? That's a long time to be supporting somebody who's first not even the person that went into that surgery, right? You're caring for someone who doesn't know where they are and is very confused and in a really intense place, and then moving back into trying to find a normal life.
I think, as I said before, I've always been a very logical and structured person. So I do things step by step. Like I have these little plans for everything. And as I told the nurses all the way there, I have one job, and it's get him better. Like, this is what I'm here for. I have nothing else to do with my life than to get him better, right? So I had plans every day. Today I'm going to, for example, for the physiotherapist will come like once every day. And well, what if I do this 10 times per day? This is gonna work. I can do this. So I got the physiotherapist to teach me what I have to do. And I did it every day, every hour or so. Let's do this. So that keeps you occupied, right? And that gives you that sense that I'm doing something to make this better, not just sitting here waiting, right? He wanted to have more protein, so I can go and buy the highest protein milk in the market. I'm gonna do that. Or he wants today to eat this, I can cook it and bring it back. And the practice sessions with the stuff that he wanted to remember, I have nothing else to do. I can sit here and repeat that over and over and over until he remembers. So it's just that sense that you're doing something and that you have a plan. And I don't know if this is mentally healthy or not, but I just didn't give a space in my mind to think how things could go wrong. Maybe it's not healthy or anything, but that's what I did. I didn't have a space in my mind for bad situations. I just had a plan. I have to do A, B, C, D, and E today. This is what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to achieve, and that's what I would go and do. Yeah, and then you feel good because you're not thinking, okay, my goal is to get out of this hospital and have a normal life. My goal is for him to be able to put his shoes by himself today.
Right.
And he did it. Okay, mission accomplished. I'm happy today, right? And tomorrow is going to be the shirt. And I don't know. I feel like that's easier than to try and think how it could be way better than what it is now.
Wow. How are you? How's your family, and how's Luis doing now?
Oh, he's doing amazing. Yes, he's doing so well. And we have discovered that he has all this energy.
Yeah.
So we can do a lot of stuff, and he seems a lot happier than when he was before, and a lot more social. He was never a very social person, never since when I met him when he was 15. And now he is. And I'm wondering, well, maybe he didn't feel healthy enough, or right? Like, even like my parents and my brothers that have known him from 35 years ago, they see him now and say he's so different. And his personality is so different now that I think that he's feeling so well. We have taken vacations in which he can hike mountains. Like, we have done 6 or 7 hours hikes.
Wow.
And he's totally fine. And that was not even a plan ever, right? Like, So yeah, no, life is really, really good now. Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. One thing that comes through over and over when we talk is your dedication to family, and having this be your family's journey, not just one person's journey. And I'm very grateful that I have an incredible family that supported me through this whole journey. So from the recipient side of things, it's amazing to have that support. From the caregiver perspective, why did you decide to make this a whole family journey rather than maybe separate it and keep it apart from everyone else?
I would never like for someone to not tell me what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it wouldn't be fair to my children to not know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in my mind, I always thought, if he, God forbid, dies, it would be better for my daughter to have lived that process than to get a shock at once.
Mm-hmm.
That was my very personal opinion, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did. She lived the process, and somehow she knew that that was a possible outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the night of her second transplant, I did talk to her and say exactly that. He could die today. It was a really hard conversation, but I felt that was what I would like for someone to do in my case, right? Just tell me what could happen and what could not.
Mm-hmm.
My son is an older person, see, he's a grown up. So he was in many ways my support. So he was going to be involved anyways on what happened and how things were going. My parents-in-law we hadn't been seeing them that often because they live in Colombia. So I thought it was only fair that they could spend some time with him before the transplant came. So they came and stayed with us for months.
Mm-hmm.
And have that chance to spend that time with him. But honestly, for me, we were the support for him. But for me, family wasn't my support because I felt like I need someone outside.
Mm.
And I have this friend that had a child with leukemia, and she's been my really close friend, but she was my support. I don't know, perhaps because this sounds really harsh, but I didn't need anyone to tell me how sad things were and how bad things could be and cry by my side. I needed someone really, really strong by my side, and she's that person. She's the person that will tell you, how can I help? What can I do? Like,
right.
Yeah, not remind me of how sad the situation was. Just how can I be helpful? What is it that you need? So she was always my support. So I think it's important to find what is it that you need and who can give that support to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's now my great pleasure to introduce everyone to Dr. Margaret Herridge. Dr. Herridge is the Professor of Medicine, Critical Care and Pulmonary Medicine at the University Health Network, a Senior Scientist in the Toronto General Research Institute, Director of Research for the Interdepartmental Division of Critical Care Medicine at the University of Toronto. She is also a caregiver and advocate for her husband, Rob, who received a living donor liver transplant. Welcome, Dr. Herridge. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Hello, Dr. Herridge. I was wondering if you can tell us what inspired you to go into the field of critical care and pulmonary medicine.
Well, I am a critical care and respirology specialist here at UHN. I've worked here my entire career. So actually, I've been looking after transplant recipients for my whole career. I was a respirologist first, and then I did additional training in critical care. And I did both for many years. Now I just do clinical critical care. So I'm working here in the Toronto General ICU, where a lot of our case mix are transplant recipients, lung transplant recipients, the more complicated liver transplant, and kidney recipients occasionally, and occasionally complex heart transplant patients. I like looking after complex patients, and I really enjoy the challenges of communication in that setting as well, and working in a very large interprofessional team. So I would say that's why I like doing critical care. And I am an outcomes researcher. I study outcomes. Our group studies outcomes after critical illness, both ironically in patients and caregivers. So all of this was our group's research focus for many years prior to experiencing a lot of this ourselves.
And we will have an upcoming episode with your husband, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about your journey from being a professional in this world to actually experiencing it yourself.
Well, I guess what I would say is we're all just people at the end of the day. I mean, we have professional roles, but all doctors become patients, doctors become caregivers. And I think these roles really disappear when you have a very personal involvement in either have a loved one who's getting sick, or you're sick yourself, or you're becoming a caregiver. I mean, you have a knowledge base as a physician. So you have that. But I mean, the emotional effect on you and the impact it has on you, either as a patient or as a caregiver, it matters more just, I think, to contextualize as a just a person, much less as a physician. Rob was really an entirely healthy person. He's a transplant surgeon himself. So I mean, there's all these levels of kind of irony here, connection. But he's a urologist and he does kidney transplants at St. Michael's Hospital. And this is a very large part of his career. So he's a very busy clinician. He started out as a basic science researcher. We both trained in Boston for a few years. And then he evolved into more of a surgical educator. So he's very modest, but he's a very decorated surgical educator at the University of Toronto. So he's totally well, working very hard, busy. And then he took our daughter, who's a student at McGill, or he was visiting her when she was doing an elective in Singapore. And they decided to take a day trip and went to a market to buy some fruit, actually, because they were going to go to an elephant petting zoo. And I guess Rob was rummaging around in this barrel of bananas, and actually he got bitten by a snake. And it wasn't a poisonous snake, but it was a snake bite. And then he got a really bad cellulitis or very bad skin infection. It was just about a day or so before he was coming back to Toronto. So he didn't see a doctor in Singapore because I think he thought it wasn't going to be so bad, but it became this really pretty raging infection, tracking up his arm, and he was really getting sick. And I remember being pretty shocked by the state of his arm when he came home. So he went on initially an antibiotic and it wasn't effective, and then a subsequent broader spectrum antibiotic. And unbeknownst to him, he developed a very severe antibiotic reaction called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. And he developed this unbelievable sort of thick, generalized, severe rash. Rash isn't even the right word. It's sort of this thick inflammatory skin response and enlarged lips. He got very sick with this and had high fevers, night sweats. This went on for months. He saw physicians. People thought it was maybe a serum sickness type of reaction to the antibiotic. They said, don't worry, it'll get better. the natural history is this should settle down, but it really didn't. And he became sicker and sicker and sicker. And of course, he's just determined, hardworking sort of person. And I think armed with the information that probably should get better, just kept going to work. But it was clear to me that he was getting very, very sick. And I began to notice that he was becoming a little bit jaundiced, and he was getting slightly confused. Not in a way I think that people noticed at work so much, but I was noticing just little things that it seemed unlike him, things he might say and as he got sicker and sicker, I began to notice more and more that he was actually confused. And then he recognized that and spoke to the people at St. Mike's and said, I'm sick. I don't really know what's going on with me, but I really need to take a time away from work because I'm not okay. And that was right. He wasn't. And then he had more and more testing and realized that actually what had happened with the Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and this is a rare but published complication, is he had developed liver failure. And so obviously he remained off work. And then we have 3 children who our sons were teenagers at the time, our daughter a young adult, and myself and all the kids were evaluated to see if we'd be eligible to be donors. And none of us was. And this was also its own difficulty. And so I would say that was very hard on. I found that very difficult. I really wanted to be able to donate to Rob. Yeah. And I think the kids found it even worse, actually. And I think that they still think about that. It really troubled them to not be able to help their father in that way. But no one was a suitable donor. So then we began the process of trying to spread the word and waiting. And I think the waiting was excruciating because there was so much uncertainty. Rob initially was pretty he was sick for sure, but he was more stable. But as the waiting period went on, he began to have some complications. He had a couple of GI bleeds. A couple of months before he was transplanted, he had a very significant GI bleed. And the other thing is that I needed to keep working through this because he wasn't working. And he had his GI bleed and was hospitalized when I was on call in the ICU. And it was just a loss.
Yeah.
I was so worried because I know about all of this, and I could see that he was beginning to decompensate. And we didn't have a donor. And a lot of people came forward. A lot of people think very highly of Rob in his community, and so many people, trainees, so many people came forward, colleagues, urology trainees, friends, and just for whatever reason, no one was of the right candidate. Maybe some people had new medical conditions that were diagnosed as part of the transplant workup. There was a lot of that. And then this colleague of mine who I'm very friendly with, but we're not close friends, came forward. And part of the problem for me is that I'm just not tall. I'm not short. I'm a taller woman, but my husband's 6'2", and this was one issue. There were other reasons our sons couldn't donate, but for my daughter and me, we could have, but we were just not big enough. The graft wouldn't have been big enough. We would have been small for size. And that David Grant, who was looking after Rob initially, the prior head of the liver transplant program, and I know I've worked with David. He said, Margaret, it's just not safe. not safe for you to do this, and there'd be a risk that it just wouldn't be an adequate organ. And then we get into all sorts of complications. We need to wait. And so Marie, who's a respirology colleague of mine at St. Mike's, who's 6 feet tall and very athletic. She's really an elite athlete. She's a biker. She's a long distance bicyclist and a very serious athlete. Came forward and unbelievable.
I think that what you're saying is very important for people to know, that sometimes you find help in the person that you least expect that is going to provide this help. So it is very important to spread the word. In our case, my husband couldn't have a living donor anymore. It had to be a deceased person, but someone that we would have never expected to come forward. This was the wife of one of his friends, which we had seen maybe twice in our lives. And yes, as you said, we were courteous with them, but not really friends. And right away she came forward and said, yes, I can do this. I will do this for certain. And I'm forever grateful. Like, even though she couldn't donate, I would have never expected for her to come forward. So I think that that's something that gives you hope, to know that if you spread the word and you keep asking, people that you will never think of will come forward and help you. So that was of comfort to me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Maria, for saying that. It's just so true what you say. And there were so many people who, after Rob got his transplant, told Rob and said, I tried so hard, but this was the reason I was turned down. And I wanted you to know that we tried. And some of these people, we were both shocked by it. And of course, deeply moved by it too. Like, we just had no idea that they would have been willing to do that or to put themselves forward like that. And it is really, it's so true what you say. And talking to Marie, and I guess Marie and I, as I say, we're always very friendly with each other, but we're both very busy people. And we always say to each other, we would totally be great close friends if we only had the time to cultivate it. We all, I think, have people like this in our lives, right?
Yeah.
But Marie always says to me when I don't know, sometimes I just email her in a day because I'm thinking about it, or I'm thinking about Rob, or there's some situation in the unit. I'm professionally constantly looking after patients like this, that I'm thanking her, and she writes back to me and she says, Marg, you just always need to understand that it was good for me too. I got a lot from this too. So I appreciate the thanks, but also thank you and Rob for allowing me to do this, because it was meaningful for me and my family. And I think that's incredible.
When we go through these situations, whether we have a lot of notice or if it's an acute case, there's a loss of sense of control, and we don't know what to do with ourselves. And either as a recipient or as a family member or a loved one, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what you did to feel like you had some control over the situation when you were going through this.
Well, it was, the loss of control was extremely difficult. I think for me, because Rob was off work. I mean, I love my work anyway, but I mean, I coped a lot by immersing myself in my work. I mean, obviously I was helping Rob at the house too, but when I was at work, it just was a bit of a mental health break for me to just sort of go, okay, I left Rob at home today. He's fine. Kids seem okay. And I just now need to try to compartmentalize this. I need to go to work and just sort of only focus on whatever it is, the unit, my research, and it's going to create a bit of a relief from the worry and the uncertainty about where we're headed. And that's how one strategy.
Mhm.
I really tried to focus on how I could help Rob tangibly, because it wasn't helpful for me to sit around the house and worry with him, like not helpful.
Mhm.
So what Rob did, and this was Rob's idea, but I really tried to help facilitate it, was we both knew the more functional he is, the better surgical risk he'll be. So Rob decided he would just take up walking with a vengeance, like create walking as his job, because he's used to being a very, very busy person, that he would just get up in the morning, get dressed, get changed, and he would sort of walk almost all day. So it was during the winter. So he discovered the path downtown underneath all the business buildings. I don't know if you guys know about
Yeah.
that, but the streets were too, like, it was just sloppy. And I think we were both worried maybe he'd fall or whatever. I mean, he wasn't that debilitated or frail, but why borrow trouble? And so I drove him to the entrance to the path at the Eaton Center every day when I wasn't in the unit. And we'd sort of get up, and that's what we did. I'd drive him down, I'd say goodbye, and it was like he was going off to work. And he
Yeah.
did the path. I tried to just encourage him. He'll tell you also what he did, but he became a regular at the St. Lawrence Market. He went shopping every day. The merchants there became his friends. He knows everyone at the market through this period, became friends with a lot of the people. And it just became sort of like his job, because he needed routine. And so we sort of did that. I'd drop him off, and then he'd do his kind of job that day. And then he'd call me if there was an issue or whatever. And then I'd go to the hospital and do what I had to do. And I think for each of us, it was a way to distract, to bring structure, and to try to cope with the waiting and the uncertainty, which really was brutal, honestly. It was really, really hard, that loss of control and not even knowing if this was even going to work out, that maybe at the end of this, he was actually going to die, because we had to look at that. I'd be interested, Maria, what were your strategies?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I kept my life as normal as I could, because I thought, as you say, if this is the end, there's no help in just having a really sad year and doing nothing and crying the entire year.
Yeah.
If there's not going to be a good outcome. So let's keep life this year, because we're still okay, right? We're waiting, but we are still fine.
Yeah.
So we kept our life as it was. I kept working. He stayed at home for some periods of time and then returned to work. I made it my mission to not get life sleep through. So if he was depressed that day, I will call him several times, get him to go walking, get him to eat, get him to not sleep all day, just do stuff. Like, I don't know, I took a lot in the sense that I'm not going to make this year the saddest year of my life. If this is going to be the last year, it's going to be a good one. So yeah, so we planned a lot. I made a point to go on holidays and to go for hiking and to go, if we were going, for example, for a drive to Toronto, I will make a point to stop at a lake or something and go look at the birds and walk around the lake. So just make it at least a little bit enjoyable, even though we knew that the trip to the hospital was not exactly a good thing. But we had some fun. I made a lot of plans. So I plan every day, because that gave me that sense of I still have this in control. I'm going to plan what he's going to eat, when he's going to walk, when he's not going to walk, everything. I'm going to plan what my daughter is going to do. So that gave me some sense of control, because in my difference with your case is you're a doctor, right? So you knew medically what was happening. I am a scientist as well. I'm a biology and biotechnologist. So I have some idea of how things work. And when I got the results from the lab work, I kind of know how bad it is or how good, but I don't have the full understanding. And that was hard on me. I need to understand things. I need to know what's happening. And I didn't have that. That was the hardest part for me, not having a full understanding of what the situation was. So I tried to control every minute of my day to not allow bad thoughts to come into my mind and to not be both of us depressed at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we in many senses we were one support for each other at different times during that year. But I totally agree with you. That year of waiting was brutal. Like it was the worst.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
agree with you.
Totally.
And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about how you advocated for Rob and how you supported him through that journey of telling people what was going on.
Well, we had this discussion, I remember vividly, with David Grant, and David saying, okay, now you've got to find a donor because Marg and the kids can't, like, they're not eligible. And so we said to David, so what do we do? And he said, well, you need to reach out to your community. I go, well, how do you do that? He said, well, different people do different things. I said, well, like what? Give us some ideas. I mean, I have no idea what to do. And he said, you've got different networks at work or in the community or whatever. I would just start reaching out. So I think we both felt kind of overwhelmed by this. David said, and Rob, it can't be you, it needs to be Marg, because you need your advocate to drive this. You need someone to reach out on your behalf. It's just the way it needs to be. It's how people would welcome the information. We armed with basically no information. I mean, truly, I think this is what Rob and I would want to help the transplant program formulate a plan for, help caregivers or patients with, is that we really, I mean, we know lots of people, but we just had no idea how to begin, what to do. And so we just bit by bit started first with kind of extended family and close friends. I created an email message with a very brief story of what had happened and what was going on. And included in that story was the link to apply to be a donor, to fill out that initial screening form for donors. And basically, as we heard that so many people came forward, but we heard from them that they couldn't donate, they'd been turned down. We had friends of my elderly parents, was like they can't donate, but they wanted to apply anyway. So all of these sorts of things, they say, well, they just told us immediately that we can't donate. And I'm a very healthy 88-year-old. And we're going, well, we're so touched by this, hearing more and more that people wouldn't be eligible. We just expanded the envelope a bit and then began to expand it through professional circles and just more extended friendship circles. Got outside of close friends now. We're in sort of more acquaintance circles, neighbor circles, and the enlarging circles and professional circles. And for sure, this is how Marie heard about it. I asked permission for my colleagues if they would be willing to send all the information out to colleagues, not just at the UHN, but across the U of T. I'm part of national networks in critical care across networks. I mean, we just spread it more and more and more and more as we heard more from our friends or people who knew us that they couldn't do it.
Wow.
And it became almost like, I'd be interested in Maria's perspective and Candice's yours too, like from your mom, like that also became a major source of kind of structure and distraction for me.
Mhm.
I was working at the general with doing what I usually do, to Maria's point, trying to maintain some sort of routine. After the fact, everyone told me I looked like a wreck. But anyway, in the real time, people go, "Oh, you're doing so great, Mark." But anyway, and after the fact, it's all over. People said, "Oh my God, we were so worried that you were here at work and you looked terrible and exhausted and so stressed out." But anyway, you go through, it helps you go through it. But that became another focus for me. It became my job then. I'd get up really early before work and I'd send out emails, or I'd field emails, or I'd say to people, "What's your community? Would you be comfortable sending it to your community?"
Mhm.
I'd say to Rob, "Who haven't we thought of yet, who we have some sort of connection to, who you think might be interested and bluntly eligible?" Because there were
Right.
so many people who were so kind, but they were too young, or they have medical problems themselves, or they're just too old.
Mhm.
And so it became a little bit like that. I know a lot of the urology trainees put their names forward.
Wow.
And they spread through the urology, because Rob was the program director of the U of T urology training program. So he trained people. He's the program director for about 10 years.
Right.
And so, and they think the world of him. And so that sort of network took its own network of younger people who would be lower risk donors and maybe more eligible donors. But that's how we approached it. But I think that's something that we'd love to help the MOT with, because that was really hard for us. We did not know where to begin. And David had some good advice, but it was kind of, I don't mean like I'm not being critical at all. I mean, I just think the world of David and the team, let me tell you, and as a colleague too, because I work closely with him as a professional colleague. All of the team, I think so highly of them. But it wasn't specific. Like, Marg, you
No,
need to
not
do
at
this,
all.
this, and
Yeah.
this. And I feel overwhelmed all over again about now what. But I'd
Yes.
be interested in how you guys manage that. But that's what we did, was just sort of ever enlarging circles as it became clear to us we needed to spread a very, very broad net and use any kind of connection that we had or our connections had to
Right.
work.
I think that in our case, it was different, but in a sense, we were even more at loss because we didn't grew up in Canada.
Mhm.
We have zero family here.
Hmm.
So even though, as you said, you started with your family, right? But if we start with that, that means we were catching this net in a different country. Those people that would volunteer would have to come here and get tested
Oh, yeah.
and then go through a transplant here. And this is just one fact, is a ridiculous amount of money that we can't afford, and these people can't afford, right? So yes, people can have the best intentions in the world, but if you go to a realistic scenario, it's absolutely difficult and almost impossible for someone to come from another country and go through this processing here. So that scared me a lot. I was completely at loss. Like they said, yes, cast a wide net. And I was thinking, even if I send it to the entire population that I know in Canada, it's not even close to being a wide net, right? Like, go to your community. Well, like, I don't know, like what, my friends from work, like I was really at loss with that. And so I went almost the same route. I said, well, the only thing that I can do is write this email, tell my story, get the link, and send it on Facebook to all my contacts and see what happens, right? So we did, because you're desperate, and whatever you are doing is better than doing nothing. So I did that. And what I discovered is that there's really good people in the world. Like people that has nothing to do with you, and just hear this story and say, yes, I will do this. I will totally do this. Send me the papers and I will fill them up. And we had several people volunteer, people that none of them were close to us. So there was no one that I would say, oh, of course, this was, I don't know, a close family member or a friend from all my life. No, just people that at some point in our lives we have known, or friends of friends that had volunteered, even a person that was a friend of someone that my mother-in-law knew. All of them volunteered and sent their papers to Toronto for the investigation. And at the end, my husband couldn't receive a living donor transplant. But my message with that is, even if when you think that this is overwhelming and you have this really small network, send it out and rest confident that there's a lot of good people in the world that just do it because it's the nice thing to do, and just volunteer and come up. It doesn't have to be anyone that you know for your entire life or is your family or anything like that. Just have that faith that someone will come up, but you really need to send that email, and don't feel like overwhelmed of sending it. Just ask for help. This is what you need to do. Just send that email and wait, and something will happen, and people will come out, and somewhere will happen. It's that same feeling that I have, that I was thinking, I don't know anyone. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't have a huge net to cast. I don't have social work networks. I live with my family. We are 4. I know 10 people at work, and my husband knows another 10, and that's about it. So, right? Like, you feel really, really like when they tell you, cast that wide net. I was thinking, I can't. I don't know that many people. So even in that situation, just do your best and send that email, and I don't know, someone will see it, and then just come and volunteer.
I say it often. It's one of the most unique situations in healthcare that we are placed in as a potential recipient for an organ. Is your best quality treatment is a living donor, but you have to go find your best treatment. And there's really nowhere else in healthcare that you're sat down and you're told, this is your diagnosis, this is your health plan, this is the best possible treatment that you can have, but you have to go find
you do it. Exactly.
You go find that, and we'll take care of it once you find that. But you're at a loss, because in all other aspects of our care, we're provided the best quality treatment by the hospitals and by our doctors. But in this situation, we have to rely on the altruism and these big hearts of people to step forward and give us the best quality care. So it's such a unique situation that people are placed in, and having to go and find somebody, it feels overwhelming to think that you have to go out there and find a donor yourself.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly right.
So how are you and Rob and your family doing now post-transplant?
Well, I think that we're all doing very well. Rob's very healthy. He's working hard. He's doing well. I think that it's taken some time for our kids to work through what happened. I'll just be honest. I think that's been hard. And I'm not sure the kids have completely unpacked all of that. It was very, very scary for them. And as I alluded to at the beginning, I think it was just really terrible for them to not be able to really help in a tangible way.
Mhm.
And I think they still, it's not rational, but harbor some guilt about that, even though no one was felt to be an acceptable donor. And it was really hard for them.
Mm.
I think Rob and I recently both had COVID for the first time. And Rob got it from a patient of his, and then I got sick from Rob. And we were pretty sick, but we're home. And I just see the fear in the kids.
Completely.
Is he going to get sick again? I'm frightened, Mom. They go, you'll be fine. But is Dad okay? Well, because it's true, basically. I mean, it's a good assumption. I mean, life is uncertain, right? But it's a good assumption that I'll be fine. But just to see the fear resurface, right, reminds them of a time when they were so afraid of losing him, and it just comes back. Are you sure Dad's okay? I'm just calling you. I don't want Dad to think that I'm being weird or extra worried, but is he okay? Yeah, he's fine. Okay, good. I was really worried. I'm really worried. So I think that it had a very big impact on our children, and they're still processing that. But I think sometimes we don't think enough. Like, we think now we're sort of, it's good, we're turning the lens on the caregiver. And I think about this in my own research program on outcomes. But I think we really now need to include in the lens the children, because the children are part of the family. They're caregiving in their own unique ways too, and they're worried in their own ways too. And I think sometimes we're not, because we're all worried, right? And the caregiver's focused on the loved one who's sick, and you're worried about losing them. What's going on with everybody else?
Yeah.
Or the kids are being stoic because they don't want to add to the caregiver's stress by saying, for me, Mom, I'm completely stressed out. It's very hard to concentrate at school. I actually don't even want to be here in school right now, which are natural reactions because the level of anxiety and worry is so huge. And I just think it's over 3 years now that Rob had his transplant, almost 3.5 actually. And he's been entirely well. Like, it's unbelievable even to me. I just go like, he's entirely well. And
awesome.
but it takes a long time for the kids to have the ability to look at something that was so scary and painful and to begin to process it fully and to integrate it into, this happened to the life of our family, and it was really terrible and incredibly scary. And we all were anticipating Rob's death because we had to be realistic about this as a possibility. I was having a lot of counseling, trying to prepare myself for this, to be honest. As he was getting sicker and sicker, I had to prepare myself for how I was going to deal with that. I mean, I don't think you can, but I was trying to look at it because I had to look at it. So I think we're all good, but I think the kids are still continuing to really unpack all of this because it was a pretty major traumatic life event for them. And of course, they're so happy about what's happened, but the fear and the trauma in the moment is a real life event, and it has a really important impact that requires you have to work through it. But I'd be interested in what you guys think about that. That's what happened in our family.
In our case, I was going to ask you how long ago had that been, because in our case, it's going to be 3 years this December.
Wow. So similar timeline.
It's a similar timeline, right? My daughter was 9 at the time, and my son was in his early 20s. I honestly think, and I'm not a doctor, but I honestly think that I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Like I still, there's little things. For example, I can't go to the Delta Hotel in Toronto. Like I step inside and that all this anguish comes back. You know, like it's all this feeling like I can't be there. Like I don't want to stay there. And the very few times that we've gone back to that specific hotel, it's like everything comes back. It's awful. Like so that's for me. And there's little things like there's a sweater that I wore because I only had brought the one hoodie in my bag. So I wore that hoodie for 42 days or so. I can't put it on. Like I gave it away. I hate it. Like I can't have that sweater on. It's just
I understand.
and I think it's silly, but it's not. Like I don't want
silly
it. I don't want to see it anymore. So little things like that. I hope with time they will go away, right? But it's just those, I don't know, that feeling. Like And for my kids, I think we try to keep life for our little one as normal as possible. But of course, it wasn't normal, right? She was completely aware of what was happening. And I think that she grew up a lot in that time. Like she's like 3 or 5 years past on her life instead of just one. And one thing that I noticed is, as you said, like that fear that he's going to get sick again. So, for example, with COVID, this was the 11-year-old that had that mask sealed to her face. Like she wouldn't take it off ever. You know, she was the one playing basketball with a mask on and everything with a mask on because she was terrified of bringing COVID home.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm grateful that she did that, but in my mind, that's sad, right? Like
I know.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
But that's the case for her. Like she wouldn't bring COVID home. Like so she spent 2 years with that mask on her face. Like so I understand. I think that even though things are really good now, like it's a really, really good life, I don't know how long it's going to take for that to go away. So I'm absolutely grateful and life is really, really good now, but it's something that happened and will stay there for a long time.
Because I mean, ironically, there's so much irony for me because I really do research in this area and I study caregivers. I mean, this is the other after critical illness, which is a traumatic life event, and just like what we've all been through. And so many of the caregivers, I mean, so many of the patients, but so many of the caregivers do have symptoms of PTSD or major depressive or anxiety disorders. And it's a well-established literature. I follow these people. Those are the studies that I do, the follow-up, long-term follow-up studies. And I know these people and I follow them. And I guess this is public, so I guess people will know that I've actually have a lot more in common with them than maybe they even appreciate it. But I'm routinely referring people for counseling because people do have PTSD, and the symptoms you're describing, Maria, absolutely are symptoms of PTSD. And I have some of them myself. And it is with traumatic memory, it really does require this integration into acceptance and integration as a life event. And it never goes away, but the interference and the emotional trauma, you know, how it interferes sometimes out of the blue, unpredictably, right? Their triggers.
Mhm.
That goes away with treatment and counseling. The memory, well, it's always a difficult memory, but it's part of a life, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and then you can kind of begin to move forward. And I think time does heal, but sometimes I think sometimes it does require specific therapy because PTSD is very treatable.
Mhm.
And I definitely have had counseling myself to deal with some of these things because I like to destigmatize counseling and mental health issues. I went into counseling when Rob was sick because I really had to try to be intact for the kids as much as I could be, even though that's who's fooling who, I was really struggling. And then kind of in the aftermath, trying to process everything, and I've really encouraged our kids to pursue it too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And because it was a big deal. And we can't just go, well, Rob's fine, now everything's fine. It never works like that.
Yeah.
If I could resonate to what Maria's saying about her daughter masking,
Mhm.
like I worked all through COVID
Mhm.
in the ICU here at the General, and along all through the time when there was no one woman was vaccinated, and
Mhm.
all the patients there's a very high mortality here in the ICU in the General, at the General. And I mean, I moved into our basement for months. I was kind of scared I would get it, but not nearly as scared as your daughter, Maria, to bring it home. And I
Mhm.
just said, well, the last thing I'm never bringing this home. I lived separately from Rob for a couple of months.
Wow.
We weren't in the kitchen together. I was masked in the house. I didn't overlap any clothing. It's like I worked during SARS too. Like no clothes came to my house. I immediately showered when I came home. I wore a mask and we had no contact with each other really for months. I
Wow.
was so afraid of that too. So I know what you mean. I just thought if he's like, now he's well and then he dies from COVID because I brought it home, I'll never
Exactly.
be able to live with myself. I'll
I
never
think that
be
was
able to
the
deal with
yeah,
that. Right.
yeah. I think that was the case. She was
I totally,
terrified of bringing COVID
yeah,
home.
Mhm.
yeah, same,
Mhm.
totally. That's
Wow.
probably my biggest fear being an intensivist during COVID, ironically, was
Mhm.
just, I cannot make Rob sick.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So Margaret, going
Yeah,
back,
it's like
you were talking a little bit about your research with
yeah,
caregivers and
yeah,
that
that's
and
right.
that
Ironically,
support.
so yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And
it's
then
really
that
crazy.
support that you recommend to caregivers
Yeah,
and
yeah,
families.
I really
Can you
do.
can you talk a little bit about some of that? And we know that there's not a lot of resources or support for caregivers and families who have
No,
survived critical illness. Can you
no,
speak to that?
there isn't. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that our group is really trying to establish is a real continuum of post-ICU care for patients and families and children. It's really on my radar, the kid piece, the
Mhm.
children piece, to create continuity, but also to help with a lot of things that the MOT program has a lot of resources for rehab and mental health. So, but still, that just doesn't exist for ICU. We've really tried to build a network so that we can advocate and facilitate that. But I'll tell you, even we did a big COVID follow-up study after COVID ICU. It's a study our group is just finishing right now. And there's such severe mental health issues in the patients and the families. And really what we in our research program is advocating for like rehab, because everyone have for that for sure. But even more so, mental health support,
Mhm.
because the additional trauma for COVID and the caregivers was the caregivers were banned from the bedside in the ICU. So they couldn't even be part of the journey. There was that extra like separation trauma too. Like people, it was terrible. So
Yeah.
not only were they traumatized like we all were because they felt out of control, or
Mhm.
Candice, your husband or your mom or You
Mhm.
know, I'm sure they've told you similar, like you're hearing similar, I'm sure similar stuff, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's no one who looks after the caregiver or the children, and people really need mental health counseling. And what I try to do in clinic when I talk to the patients and the caregivers, because they often come in together, is to normalize and destigmatize the mental health piece, because it's normal. That everyone has been through a traumatic life event, and that changes your life. It changes you. It changes your fearfulness, your sort of fear thresholds. And you need help with that to, I mean, the memory is going to always be the memory, but need help with that so it doesn't interfere with your ability to live your life. And I really try to normalize it. I mean, it's not really appropriate for me to be sharing my personal experiences with my patients or caregivers. I mean, it's not, it's a inappropriate. Well, I guess I'm doing this now. A lot of people watch it, but it's a boundary. It's a professionalism boundary issue. It's not appropriate for me to do that. I can do it in this forum, but what I'm saying is, as a physician and as a researcher who does work in this area and understands the literature and my own experience, I mean, we really need to be looking after people so much more after the event, regardless of the outcome of the family member, like of the patient, even if it's incredible, right? And Maria and I and you, Candice, I mean, we're all so fortunate to have had these incredible outcome experiences so far. And yet the trauma of the event lives on in us because it was a traumatic event, and it was really unbelievably scary, with a loss of control and fear of death, which was real and possible. That's, I'd love to see and help with that, because we're really on a mission to do that for the post-ICU patients and families and children. And we're all really talking about similar kinds of trauma and traumatic memory that requires treatment, actually. And there are very specific treatments for these things. There's very specific treatments for PTSD symptoms. And we actually have a PTSD super expert at Ryerson University, well, Toronto Metropolitan University currently, who is actually a national expert. I work with her. And there's a lot of expertise and a lot of help, but I think we need to create more like normal pathways where, I just always say to the patients and families, it's normal to feel this way. And I normally just suggest having counseling, because that's something I just expect you might need. May I organize that for you? I just try to normalize it instead of, are you okay? I mean, it's just this sort of undercurrent of judgment, or you should be okay, or you should be grateful. Everything should be fine because your loved one is fine. It doesn't work that way. And I obviously, because I study this, I read about it, I think about it. I think that's an important focus that we could really help a lot with going forward.
That's amazing. If somebody wanted to learn more about your research or find some of these programs or resources that were available, where could they read more about that?
I'm happy to supply some of those resources, Candice, to you,
Mhm.
and chat more with you and the MOT group offline.
Well,
A lot of the lung transplant programs have been in other research studies our group's done because they've spent longer times in the ICU, and same with some liver transplant patients.
mhm, mhm.
So I've actually looked after a lot of transplant patients and families also, ironically, not just in the unit, but in follow-up.
Right.
I know it's a bit unusual for sure,
Mhm.
but happy to share some of those thoughts and resources, like for sure. Yeah.
Amazing.
I think this is a message that our group and other groups are trying to message for adults who've been through critical illness or a major medical event in their lives, that we really need to also think about families, the
Yeah.
caregiver, the children, everyone who is because we don't get sick in isolation. Our whole family gets sick. And so we really need to look after the whole family. 100%. I couldn't agree more.
Is there something that you would want to share to caregivers or to family members who have been through this journey that you think would help them from the experience that you've had? And maybe I'll start with you, Maria.
I think that conscious that everyone goes through this in a different way, and it's different for everyone. But what I think helped me and my journey was that I made it like a plan. I have to get my husband through his transplant, and he's going to get well. And that's the only thing that is in my mind. And I'm going to plan for that, and I'm going to work through it. And we lived every day trying to make it at least a bit a happy day, right? So trying to enjoy the little things in every day. And if, as I said, if we were going to a hospital appointment, then we will stop at the lake and have a nice moment in that day. And have these little things that you enjoy every day, and go through your process and enjoy it, and find something to hold on to. So I had my faith, I prayed a lot, but I know that that's not the case for everyone, and that's totally fine, but that's what helped me. I found that was of comfort to me specifically. So I prayed a lot, I had my faith, I enjoyed little moments every day. I found some space for me that was I walked a lot. I had these walking patterns. I even walked the stairs at Toronto General, up and down the stairs every single day, many times, just to relax and have some physical exercise. And that helped me to sleep, which was very important, because then you get physically tired of walking the stairs, so you can actually sleep. So I think it's important to find a little space for you. It's important to enjoy little things every day, make it a happy day. At least that a little tiny part of your day needs to be happy. And also give yourself some space to break down and cry. So I think that you're a better person once you have a good cry.
I totally agree.
My friend told me, just go have a cry in the shower. No one will notice. And that was one amazing piece of advice. So I used to go in the shower and have these really, really, really nice cries and come out of there feeling really good. Like, okay, I got it all out. I have this energy again to keep on with my day. So you are the support to your patient, but you're also human, and you need to break down and have these little cries and feel better and relax a bit and have that bad moment and be okay again.
Beautiful. Thank you, Maria. And for yourself, Margaret?
Thanks, Maria, for saying that. And a lot of the strategies, for sure, I observed as well. I think the routine we both talked about. I mentioned Rob's walking. I also did walking too, interestingly. I didn't mention it, but it's it's contemplative, right? You can process, but you make yourself tired. The sleep is a crucial thing. Try to observe some routine so that the routine can anchor the day, and you feel like you're just got some structure that keeps you going, because it's so difficult to keep going. And focus, whatever that focus might be, whatever your work is, whether you work within the home or outside of the home, just trying to do something that's productive, that also feels like you're not just in the waiting place, Candice, as you said, which is terrible. Like, it's intolerable. You need to feel that something is moving forward, even though the global issue is uncontrollable, that you can control some things and move those things forward. I think what you said was really important and powerful. I really agree with Maria. I did a lot of crying in the shower too, a lot of private crying. I'd cry a lot in my office at work because I have privacy here. I'm by myself. So that, my children didn't see me crying because that really terrified them. And same with Rob. It wasn't helpful for Rob to see me crying, even though I know he knew I was. But also the space to be real. And that's why I sought counseling, because I could say whatever I wanted to this person. I could tell her how frightened I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could kind of leave it there. So yeah, that's what I did. I didn't want to burden my friends with it too much, or my sisters, or my parents are elderly, and they were absolutely terrified. And so they would look to me because I'm the doctor, and that's the other burden that I found very difficult. I didn't really talk about this here, but that was sort of a burdensome thing. But anyway, they looked to me to be the strong person, and I knew that, so I couldn't unload on them. And so I needed a place, as Maria said, to not just like to cry. Crying is very, very helpful if you're inclined to cry. I don't know, not everyone is sort of, I'm really okay to say that I do that too. I cope in the ICU that way too, in my office sometimes. But I needed to see a counselor. This happened to be a psychiatrist, a colleague of mine who's a psychiatrist at UHN, to just be very, very real and to say all the stuff that terrified me, and to just get rid of it once a week in a very safe space and no one else could hear. And that helped a lot. And I think a good strategy too, for if that works for you. I really agree with Maria. Different things work for you. Got to kind of know what works for you and try different things. But once you find what works, it's just keep doing it.
I have one final question that I like to leave on a positive note. Margaret, I'll start with you. If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
A tree?
Yes.
What? Oh my God.
We like to put people on the spot and end in a silly way. This is hard-hitting journalism.
Okay, I'm gonna hedge the question a bit. I'm gonna be two trees. One tree is, because we have two of these trees at our house. One tree I would like to be is a Japanese maple, because it's architecturally beautiful and it brings joy, because it's, can I say, I'm not trying to be a beautiful tree, but I'm just going to say, yeah, I would want to be that tree because it brings a lot of joy, because there's almost a sort of a artistic kind of creative element to this tree. And I love it. I love looking at it. So I like the sort of creativity or the joy that natural beauty brings. But we have a lot of very, very old oak trees on our property that are like 80 years old. And not a lot, like 2. But they're big and they're solid and they're stalwart and they're strong. And they kind of anchor the property. So I think I'd like to be a bit of each.
Amazing. That's beautiful. And yourself, Maria?
I had before Dr. Harrington said, I thought about the oak tree. But now, if I had to pick another one, just the name escaped me in this beautiful moment, is this tree, a willow tree.
Yes.
And I would be a willow tree because it just goes with the flow, right? Like the leaves just move with the wind, and I like all relaxed and laying in the ground and just giving a lot of shade. And I think that's part of what I think we should do, just go with the flow and withstand the situations and go with the flow and be happy and be shade for everyone. Yeah, that's what I would be.
Amazing. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your incredibly touching journeys and for being so vulnerable with me today and for discussing all of this. I think everybody can learn something from both of your journeys, and I'm so incredibly grateful for your time and for sharing today. Thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you both so much.
With you. Nice to meet you, Maria. Nice to hear about your
meeting
journey.
you.
Really nice to meet you. Yeah. And thanks,
Really
Candice, for offering the chance to speak about our experiences. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.